We have just got some huge gameplay details for Marvel Spider-Man 2. This all comes from a couple of interviews that Eurogamer and Famitsu had with Brian Intihar, the creative director at Insomniac Games. He dives into how character switching will play out, as well as confirming a brand new playable area that we will be able to explore. But before we jump into any of that, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date with everything and anything Spider-Man 2 related. So in the gameplay trailer, we saw the moment when we will be able to switch from playing as Pete to Miles by the simple press of a button. This clearly demonstrated the power of the PS5 with its instantaneous load times between areas, as we seamlessly travel from Queens to the other side of New York in Harlem. This is something that Insomniac have quite a bit of experience with, as they were responsible for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which took full advantage of the same feature, being the PS5's SSD. But a question a lot of people had is whether or not we can control when the character switching takes place. Well, in the interview, Brian said that when you're playing the main story, we control when you switch between Pete and Miles. It's done in service to the story when we're making those switches. So, as you saw in the gameplay reveal, which is a segment of the main story, we are predetermining those based on what we want to do for how the story plays out. Clearly, for main missions and narrative moments in the story, we won't have any control on who we are playing as, which makes total sense. But things get exciting when it comes to traversing the open world. If you can recall, in the first two games, there were stages in between main missions where we were able to traverse New York and level up our gear by fighting crimes and doing certain side missions. And when it comes to some of those side pieces of content, this is what Brian had to say. We have content designed around Peter, we have content designed around Miles, and we have content where you can play as either. You'll be able to, in the open world, freely switch between them with a simple button press. This is great news and opens the door on a ton of opportunities for Insomniac. For instance, we could have dedicated side missions for both Peter and Miles, where maybe Pete has to catch up with Black Cat or Miles has to help out his uncle, being the Prowler. But Brian also mentioned that it's been so awesome to be able to choose between who you want to play as for a certain activity, and it's something that Insomniac wouldn't have explored previously. This is why the game could only be on PS5, and I know there's a ton of people who are upset about it, but it's nearly been 3 years since the release of the console, and to me it makes total sense that they want to deliver the best possible product to the public, and the only way to do that is by focusing on the current gen consoles and pushing the limits of what its hardware is capable of. Brian also mentioned that they want to make sure that when we do switch between characters, that there is still that sense of familiarity, because at the end of the day, they are both Spider-Man. However, he says that we will still have that flexibility in customization, as we can upgrade both Peter and Miles in their own individual skill trees. We saw in the gameplay reveal where Miles has the evolved Venom powers, whereas Peter has the symbiote abilities, and so those change a bit of how you play, and you can upgrade those in their respective trees as well. This sort of gives me the impression that we'll be able to play with the symbiote suit in the post-game. It would just be strange to upgrade the symbiote abilities for them to be blocked off after we've completed the story. I mean, it's something that so many people are looking forward to, and honestly, regardless of whatever occurs in the main story, I would still love the ability to swing through New York in the black suit and unleash some pain. One of the areas we'll be able to do this is Queens, which was revealed to us in the gameplay trailer, but in an interview with Famitsu, Brian Intihar explained, "We've added Queens and Brooklyn to the map, which makes it roughly twice the size of our previous work. These two neighborhoods are a bit smaller and more residential, so they have a different charm than Manhattan. I'm so glad that they've expanded the map, and it being nearly double the size is crazy. It's also going to be super refreshing to have a more suburban feel to these two new areas in comparison to the skyscrapers and busy streets of the city. And with the new addition of web wings and the ability to seamlessly switch between our heroes, it's going to make getting around this larger landscape 10 times easier. That was something that I enjoyed far too much from the first two games, being the ability to just swing through the streets of New York, soaking in the scenery as Spider-Man. Overall, this is some really exciting news for Marvel Spider-Man 2, and the last week has just been crazy for the game. Ever since the gameplay trailer, it feels like every day we are learning more and more, and hopefully this doesn't slow down. I also highly recommend that you guys check this video out if you want to find out whether or not there is a possibility of Peter Parker becoming Venom in Spider-Man 2. Of course, I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate all the support, and as always guys, Take care.